I should have checked my settings beforehand. Jeez. There. Hope that I don't cut anything off. But here it is! It's been so long. But here it is. Tiny bunny. So who's excited? Alright, let's do this. We're gonna do a new game, because we're redoing everything. Because I don't remember anything. I clicked you. Let me know if this sounds good. The wind clawed at my window all night. It wandered the fields and howled like a hungry beast. Was that an angry beast? Could be that way too. An endless song weaved from all sorts of voices, shrill, gentle, sneery, twined in the air. They were shouting and laughing and arguing about something. Someone was running through the snow while casting long shadows that would occasionally creep close to my bed. Our house had a mind of its own, the creaky old mind of a building that had seen a lot in its days, and was seemingly trying to share its wisdom with the inhabitants. The lonely house faced the forest, and the dark green thicket gazed back with its hollow eyes, rustling, wheezing, swaying back and forth. Swaying. One could come out and stand at the edge of the forest to reassure themselves there was nobody behind the crooked trees. Fuzzy silhouettes swaying in the wind couldn't possibly do any harm. It's just a play of the light and shadow. Just a play. I knew it was just my imagination. I was already 12, after all. Still. Ooh, there's a fox there. Episode 1, the owl will arrive. Hey, put away your book. How many times have I told you not to read at the table? It's bad for your health. Look at how slouched you are. Hide the book. I didn't protest and put the book about Conan the Barbarian aside. I was stuck on a line I couldn't understand after reading it 3 times anyway. Alia had already finished her breakfast and was munching on some cookies. She was so enthusiastic. Why is it so hard for me to say? She almost looked like your typical girl from commercials. You're not going anywhere until you finish all of it. I, on the other hand, was still trying to drill a hole in the plate with my eyes, as if it would make the porridge disappear. Voices are too quiet. I can fix that. Hazy anxiousness welled up inside, all because of the previous sleepless night, the black forest around our house, and the gloomy wind. The longer I waited, the colder the lumpy white substance became. It looked like a jellyfish from the Katsuo Odyssey. I love that show. I wonder how horrifying the bottom of the ocean is. Or could the black forest is at night. The spoon fell out of my hand. Mom showered me with a glare of from her green eyes. What did I just say? I still feel like it's too quiet. Okay. I'll get it. I had 10 seconds to catch my breath before battling the nasty porridge once again. I felt around for the spoon. What is this, carved on the other side of the table? Corina. Ha, that's my mom's name. I guess she carved it out with something pointy when she was little. She was a rascal damaging the furniture like that. She would scold me for a week if I did something similar, though. Should I remind her about it? No, she's been in a bit of a bad mood lately. I imagined her being my age, sitting under this table. I wonder, was Mom afraid of the dark back then? Or the sounds coming from the attic? Or the thick forest? I imagined my grandma coming into my little mom's room, sitting at the edge of her bed, where Alya sleeps nowadays, and saying this in her soft, soothed voice. Taiga is a special place, little girl. It's watching you closely, sniffing you out. Trying to discern what kind of beast you are. If you're a good sort, it won't abandon you in times of trouble. But if you're a bad apple, it'll grab you by the side and drag you under the ground. And that would be it. Grandma was caring. She never fought with anybody, never yelled, never swore. Those were the times without the maddening screams until late at night, without smashed dishes and mutual accusations. Our parents used to love each other back then. I remember listening in on one of their conversations by chance. They were talking about Grandma getting prepared for her funeral. She had already bought a casket, and she called it her cute funeral box. It waited for its time in the closet patiently. It was black, upholstered with meat-colored material on the inside. I saw it when my grandma was getting buried. The house didn't change since the time she was alive. Only all of the photos were gone. Glass-covered pictures with gray faces of my ancestors. They all had a dead but watchful look in their eyes. I crawled out from under the table. Alya was done with her cookies and was looking at my share like a sly woodland critter. I turned my gaze toward the frosted window. There was a lot of dark pines outside, but they didn't grab my attention. The pattern of frost formed a picture in the glass.
Оля, гляди, лиса!
Alya, look, it's a fox.
Где?
Where? I still feel like the music's too loud. It looked almost like those optical illusion thingies they put on the back of a student notebooks. A mixture of lines at first glance, but if you blur your vision a little bit and look under a certain angle.
Да не на улице, на стекле.
Not outside, on the window.
Смотри, вот нос, вот.
Look, here's the nose, and here's...
Ну-ка, доедай.
Hey, eat up.
Да, да, сейчас.
Yes, yes, just a moment.
Я ничего не вижу.
I don't see anything.
Живо. Совсем немного осталось.
Hurry up, there's not much left.
А, вот. Но все равно не похоже.
Ah, there it is, but it still doesn't look like one.
А я говорю, похоже.
And I'm telling you, it does.
Не-а.
Nuh-uh.
Похоже.
It does.
Прекратите. Ну что за дети?
Stop it, these kids, I swear. Now I couldn't see the fox either. It disappeared. Went away. Only the frosty pattern, similar to stretched out nettle leaves, kept creeping up the grass. My dad entered the kitchen with long, measured steps. I want to have a beard like his when I grow up. Mom would always ask jokingly, "Come on, shave it off, it stings." This was so long ago. Nowadays, rumbling doors and witty comebacks were an everyday occurrence. Alia always covers her ears whenever she hears something like, "What's the point in all of this?" through the wall. "It's all for your sake," Dad would reply, "for the sake of our family." I always caught every sound in fear of hearing the most dreaded, the deadliest word that started with a D. D-I-V-O. I don't even want to finish it. It was scary to imagine that me and my little sister could be torn apart and taken into two different families.
Да что твоя лиса? Вот у меня на окне сова.
Anyway, your fox is nothing. I have an owl on my window.
Опять ты со своей совой.
You and your owl again?
Так ты же вчера мне верил.
You said you believed me just yesterday.
Никто ключи от машины не видел?
Has anybody seen my car keys?
Вроде оставлял на подоконнике.
I remember leaving them on the windowsill.
Вроде.
Right.
Вроде оставлял, вроде нет.
Maybe you did, and maybe not.
Вроде взрослый мужчина, отец двоих детей, а вроде...
You're a grown man, a father of two, and still...
Перестань, пожалуйста, Карина.
Karina, please stop.
Дай мне спокойно собраться.
Let me get ready in peace.
В корзине твои ключи, возле телефона.
Your keys are in the basket near the phone.
Огромное тебе человеческое спасибо.
Well, thank you very much.
Антон, ешь быстрее, а то как мученик сидишь.
Anton, stop making a martyr out of yourself and finish eating already.
А сова?
But the owl!
Не было там никакой совы.
There was no owl.
Была.
But there was one.
Глазюки огромные. Во, и светятся.
It had giant glowing eyes. Alia sprung up from the chair and placed her hands on her little face, imitating a pair of eyes with her fingers, the size of an apple each.
В прошлом году бабай в шкафу, сейчас сова.
Last year you had a babai in your closet, and now this owl? We're blinking. Babai, a Slavic folklore, a nocturnal spirit used by parents to threaten their ill-behaving children. Ooh.
Но я же видела.
But I saw it! Alia shifted her gaze back and forth from Dad to Mom to me, but couldn't find any support.
А ты не думала подружиться с ней, нет?
Have you thought about befriending it?
Вымышленными мышами покормить, например.
You know, like feeding it with imaginary mice?
Не подначивай ребенка.
Don't bully our girl.
Просто мала еще. И спать одна боится.
She's just afraid to sleep alone because she's still little. Alia pouted her lips in rebellion and rushed into the hallway. The staircase that led to the second floor creaked. Mom gave Dad a strict look. Oh, that look in her eyes. It's so uncomfortable to be pinned under it. Dad just snorted in reply and left ringing with the keys he just found. A minute had passed, and the theme song from The Little Mermaid echoed through the house. It was stored on incredibly worn-out cassette tape, which Dad already had to glue together once. It's so easy to fix objects by gluing them back together, for example. But how do you fix a relationship? Mom moved to the living room, and I was left alone, anxiously stealing glances at the window. Alia had trouble sleeping ever since we moved into this house. She would toss and turn or curl up into a ball under her blanket. Sometimes she would jump up in the middle of the night and turn on the VCR. Cartoons helped to take her mind off of all the troubles we had with the move and our parents. Ooh. And then Alia said she saw that giant flying monster outside her window. She became obsessed with it. Our parents did everything in their power. They tried every little trick to get rid of those ridiculous fears. Alia refused to sleep alone and didn't believe that the owl was just one of her nightmares. After last night, I was unsure what to make of my sister's words, what to think of it myself. Can nightmares be infectious? That night, I couldn't get a wink of sleep and ended up thinking of what to expect from my new school. There were a couple of days left before the beginning of a new term. My imagination drew long, twisting hallways that led to a classroom full of kids. But all the students behind their desks were simply dark figures cut out using a template. Circular holes gaped in the middle of their faces, and pairs of eyes blinked inside those holes. It was as if some completely different creatures were looking at me from behind the flat, black silhouettes. Their cruel glares, filled with icy sneers, made me shiver from head to toe. Will I survive here? Won't they gang up on me and beat me down? Stomp on me with their bloodied shoes? The damn school could burn for all I care. I just wished for anything to happen to it. Doesn't really matter what. I didn't want to go there that badly. I didn't want to see people who are just itching to smack me on the head, trip me up, think of a new offensive name for me, worse than the previous one. I felt like the glasses I wore made me an outsider or some sort of monster. My gaze slid across the drawings hanging on the walls. I couldn't consider myself a great artist, but Alia begged me to hang them. Drawing was the only thing that made me happy as of late. A small circle of friends I had also enjoyed my paintings, and they promised to call me from time to time. Sometimes I imagine Mom picking up the phone and saying in a cold voice, "You've got the wrong number." Or, "Anton is not around." Anton is not around. I imagine my future classmates lying in their beds, just like me, listening to the howls of the invisible werewolves outside their windows. Maybe my new classmates will like me after all. But who would ever like a boy with thick glasses? I mean, my dad used to wear glasses when he was little, and now he's married to the most beautiful woman on the planet, my mom. The house creaked, pressed by the wind. The condo we used to live in, a 9th-floor concrete building, buzzed with the neighbor's drill, mumbled with a TV set from behind the wall, cried like a baby from the big family next door. Our current house, though I can't really call it new, was completely different. It was silent and easygoing during the day. Its shadows lay dormant in the corners, on the closet cobwebs, and under the stairs. But they all woke up during the night. Something was watching me from every corner, almost as if the old photos of my deceased family, with their ashen eyes, were hanging on the walls in place of my drawings. The floor was squeaking, rusty drains were moaning. The attic was occupied by noisy drafts. One could think the house was performing some sort of demonic melody. And then I realized I was, in fact, hearing music. It was already playing for a good while. Somewhere at the edge of my perception, I could hear a flute. It was mixed in with the sound of the wind of the creaking old house and my thoughts too. I stood up and rushed to the window. I wanted to reassure myself that this music was nowhere than a product of my imagination. It's not like someone is playing it there amidst the cold, snowy night, right? Someone was dancing in the field. Black silhouettes I could barely make out, with the dark forest as their backdrop. They jumped around, basked in moonlight, bumped into piles of snow, rolled around, and crawled on all fours. Stories about wolves playing under the moon came to mind, but these were clearly not wolves. They stood upright at times, circled around holding hands and whipping up snow, disappearing into the shadows for a brief moment and then coming back. Something bizarre was going on. Shadows danced in the starless abyss, made my imagination go wild, making me anxious at the same time. Suddenly, the music had stopped. The dancing shadows froze in place, and I could swear, pierced me with their eyes. One of the silhouettes immediately parted from the bizarre shadow carnival and sprinted across the field with giant leaps. It glided on squeaky snow without leaving any prints until it was devoured by the pitch-black shadow of my house, which became even darker and thicker. My heart was jumping around like a bird inside a cage. I shut the curtains with a swift motion and stepped back toward the bed. They saw me. A freezing torrent of fear washed over me. I stood in the middle of a perfectly dark room and listened to some unwanted guests move and scrape around, looking for an entrance. The sound moved to the right, then circled around the house. Now my guest should be at the front door. I jumped into bed and covered myself with a blanket as if it could protect me. The shackles of fear locked my muscles. I remembered the funeral, my grandma laying there, hands crossed on her chest, her facial features sharp with that of a tin doll. Ants running up and down the legs of chairs that held my grandma's casket. I imagined those little creatures climbing up her head and pulling up her eyelids with their tiny legs. Then her wrinkly eyeballs would once again move inside their sockets and she'd be able to see her grandchildren. I was chanting the spell she taught me throughout the whole procedure. And now, laying under the blanket and listening to the squeaks and howls, I was repeating the same words. On the island of Abayan, underneath the blemished sun, in the sea of color blue, stands a cabin made of wood. Evil leave this house must. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Bizarre sounds had disappeared. I cautiously peeked out from under the blanket and saw curtains waving around like a hanged man. And then the night doused me with a new portion of boiling terror. The sound scratched at my eardrums. In reality, something or someone were scratching at the front door, hurriedly clawing at wood, demanding to be let in. The door was shut. Dad had become very cautious recently, so he installed a sturdy lock. I remember him staring at the forest intently, as if he was looking for someone. Ashes to ashes. Dust to dust. I hugged my knees, placing my chin between them, and drilled the door with my eyes. It was so flimsy and weak before the might of darkness. And then the doorknob twitched slightly. Then it turned halfway, once, twice, as if the person who tried to enter had no hands. The doorknob tilted once more and then started clicking violently. My jaw cramped from fear. My wet fingers clenched at the blanket. The door creaked and opened. The wind taunted me, moaning inside the tin drains. Now you'll see. The door was wide open. The darkness wreathed inside the carnivorous mouth of a doorway. To! Knee. It was as if the night itself was calling out to me, flapping its black wings and squeaking with rusty hinges. I was trembling, ensnared by the web of darkness that hung in the corners of my room, waiting for the one who weaved it to come out of the gaping black hole. Toe. Knee. My abdomen tightened and my chest rose up, ready to exhale a desperate scream. But before I was able to do anything, the darkness asked me,
Ты спишь, Тоша?
Tosha, are you asleep? My sister's pale face protruded from the thick shadows. I almost screamed from relief.
Оля, я не сплю. Что случилось?
Alia, I'm not sleeping. Did something happen? Alia frowned and stuck out her lower lip, a clear sign that she was about to cry.
Оно опять прилетело и пялится на меня.
It's there again, staring at me.
Прогони ее, Тоша. Прогони, пожалуйста.
Shoo her away, Tosha, please.
Я так боюсь.
I'm so scared. The fear that was tormenting me just a minute ago crawled away and hid somewhere in my stomach. I needed to calm Alia down.
Это был сон, глупая. Не пугайся. Сны не кусаются.
It was just
Тебя не обидит.
It was just a dream, silly. Don't be scared. Dreams don't bite. No one's going to harm you. Alia sobbed. She was trying her best to believe me. But was I sure myself?
У меня есть идея.
I have an idea.
Пойдем к тебе в комнату, видик посмотрим. Спящую красавицу, например.
Let's go to your room and watch a video. Sleeping Beauty, for example.
Тебе же нравится этот мультик?
You like that cartoon, don't you?
Почему у спящей красавицы принца у меня эта страшная птица?
Why does the Sleeping Beauty have a prince and I have a scary bird? That question took me by surprise.
Ладно, давай посмотрим Золушку.
Alright, let's watch Cinderella. My thoughts became tangled, fuzzy. What was that? What studied me with its eyes while dancing feverishly under the moon? The darkness was clinging to the window, and it couldn't be fooled by Grandma's old chants. It couldn't be satisfied with a feast of lard and long ashen hair.
Тоша, ты идешь?
Tosha, you coming?
Да, сейчас.
Yes, just a moment. I'm okay. I forgot that. That's why I didn't want to laugh at Alia and her owl in the morning. I'm glad you're entertained. Who could be visiting us in the middle of nowhere? We don't know anyone around here. So persistent. I felt extremely unsettled just from a silly thought that our morning guests could have come from the woods. I could barely hear voices coming from the front door. My mind was urging me to hide. In the closet. Under the table. Behind the curtains where Alia always hides. Tosha, come here. I felt like kettlebells were tied to my feet, but still dragged them toward the hallway. A couple of policemen towered over me in the doorway. They smelled like frost and worry. My mom always winced and grumbled the moment she saw patrol cars, worse than bandits. At the moment, though, she looked somewhat confused.
Здравствуйте.
Hello. The senior officer, who wore a grim expression, nodded.
Тут мальчик вчера потерялся. Вовой зовут.
A boy had gone missing yesterday. His name's Vova.
Глянь, пожалуйста. Ты его не видел?
Look at this, please. Have you seen him? The policeman held out a photograph to me. There was a ginger boy around the age of elementary school, pictured with a wall carpet as the backdrop. He had a striped cat in his hands and wore a wide smile.
Нет.
No, I haven't.
Точно? Посмотри внимательнее.
Are you sure? Look closely.
Где мне его видеть? Я тут никого не знаю. Да и из дома-то почти не выхожу.
Where would I see him? I don't know anyone around here. I barely leave the house.
А может, видел в окно?
Well, maybe you've seen him from the window.
Да, у тебя ведь окна на лес.
That's right. Your window looks straight at the forest, don't they? The window?
Нет, не видел.
No, I haven't seen anything.
Ясно.
I see. He sounded tired, but his eyes, his stare, long and heavy, was full of suspicion. I squirmed unwittingly under the weight of guilt, which his giant shadow cast over me. The policeman finally tore his eyes from me and glanced over the hallway, the stairway, and the cracks in the ceiling, which I haven't noticed before for some reason.
Вы, кстати, как на новом месте?
How do you
Попривыкли уже?
like your new place, by the way? Getting used to it?
Понемногу, только вот дочка маленькая по городу скучает.
Bit by bit, it's just our little daughter misses the city a lot.
Скучает, значит. Из местных вас никто не беспокоит?
Misses the city, huh? Have the locals been treating you well?
Все хорошо, спасибо.
Yes, everything's all right, thank you. The policeman pierced through me one more time with his gray eyes. My head started spinning.
Может, вам помочь как-то?
Can I help you somehow? I asked that in a shaky voice to look like a polite boy and to end this unpleasant conversation sooner.
Я вот стою и думаю,
Now that I think about it,
ты, малец, на племеша моего похож.
you look just like one of my nephews, little fella.
Шустрый парнишка твоих лет, с такими же окулярами. Все книжками зачитывался, детективами.
He's a witty boy around your age, wears the same type of goggles, haha. Always engrossed in reading those mystery novels.
Когда летом погостить приезжал, говорит, что в школу милиции мечтает поступить.
Told me he wants to enroll in police school when his family visited this summer.
Как я. Хотел людям помогать. Смекаешь?
Wanted to help other people, just like me, see? I felt uncomfortable, as if a distant relative and not a police officer stood before me.
Ох, ребятушки,
You know what?
сидите-ка вы лучше дома. Не ввязывайтесь ни во что. Жизнь сейчас совсем другая пошла.
Little boys like you should stay at home, steer away from trouble. The times have changed so much. My mom interjected in a cold voice.
Мне ли не знать?
You don't say.
Ну да ладно.
Ah, well then.
Ты, Антон, в каком классе учишься?
What grade are you in, Anton?
В 6.
6th.
Друзей-то на новом месте еще не завел?
Have you made any friends here so far?
Пока нет. Я только после каникул в школу пойду.
Not yet. I'll be going to school for the first time after the break.
Тогда вот вам на всякий случай мой номер. Звоните, если узнаете что.
Ah, then I'll leave you my number, just in case. Call me if you have any new info. The policemen were gone along with their shadows. Hi, Miss Beth. The smell of cheap cologne and the photo of a smiling boy. Her face still stood before my eyes, or his face still stood before my eyes. I wondered what it was like for him being all alone there. Gotta charge my phone, but I'll be lurking while it's charging. Well, thanks for the lurk, Miss Beth. I really appreciate it. For some reason, I thought that the forest, swaying in the wind. What did his poor parents feel? And what would my parents do if I'd gone missing? Would they cry and thrash around hysterically? Or would they accuse each other, like they always do, and forget about me eventually?
Мам, а Вова этот в нашем лесу заблудился?
Mom, this Vova, did he go missing in our forest?
Выходит, что так. Бедный ребенок.
Seems like it, poor child. I looked out the window at the road. The police UAZ drove off toward the village. UAZ, a Soviet and Russian off-road freight passenger car, brand which was produced on the I'm sorry for my pronunciation. Yolyanovsk car factory. I tried. The officer's nephew came to mind when I was splitting off old paint from the windowsill. I remembered all the teenage mystery novels from the Black Kitty series I've read this summer. Black Kitty. A series of contemporary Russian original or translated teen mystery books. Wow. You tried. I did. Your average boys and girls investigated all sorts of mysteries there. They looked for clues, spied on suspicious people, and after a set of amazing adventures, bam, solved any complicated case. They became local celebrities and must have made their parents very proud. I noticed a trail of policemen's footprints that led to the forest. I am struggling. And then it clicked in my head. Why don't I start an investigation of my own? Maybe I'll find the lost boy. And I'll get a reward. Alia would be so happy. And not only Alia, Mom and Dad too. Maybe they'll even forget about their quarrels for a while. Maybe I'll even save us from the D word. I fantasized about buying Alia a Tamagotchi and getting a cassette player and a bunch of tapes for myself. And a whole box of Kinder Surprise. When was the last time our parents bought us any toys? Last autumn, I think. My dad lost his job at the time. There's that annoying song about it. Accountant, a song by all-female Soviet pop band by the name of... Oh, I like how they translated it to Combination. That became widely popular in the early 90s. Yeah. They translated it. I had little to no idea what was the accountant's job like. They count money, I think. Neighbors used to envy us. But nowadays, Mom and Dad barely had money to afford sweets, and Dad would always divide a single chocolate bar between me and Alia. Sometimes I gave her my share too. No matter how much I wanted to eat sweets, she was still just a pipsqueak. I couldn't wait to go out, looking for clues.
Пойду погуляю.
I'm going outside.
Ага, сейчас.
Yeah, right.
Чтобы потом милиционеры с твоей фотографией по домам ходили.
You want the police to go around with your photograph next?
Лес вон какой густой.
The forest is so thick.
А если мальчика звери дикие утащили? Или того хуже?
What if the boy got snatched up by wild animals, or something even worse? Even worse echoed through the hallway.
Я рядом буду. В лес не пойду.
I won't go far. I'll stay away from the forest.
Что я тебе сказала? Мне дважды повторять.
Did you hear what I said, or should I repeat myself?
Лучше портфель собери или соли поиграй.
Better go pack your school bag or play with Alia. The sound of splashing water came from the kitchen. It meant that the argument was over and Mom had the last word. Grandma kept ice cream for me and Alia, but now I could only see meat bits for soup. There's eye buttons in the right corner, upper corner, to see items you can interact. Really? I didn't notice that. Grandma kept the ice cream for me and Alia up there, but now I can only see meat bits for soup clumped together. Palmeni. I grew to hate them already. Turn back time. Oh yeah. Lie to Mom. It was difficult to lie to Mom, but there was no other way for me to run away from home.
Мам,
Don't forget to
там
take the
что-то с
note on the
телевизором
fridge
случилось.
before you escape. Oh, okay. Mom, something's wrong with the TV.
Картинка какая-то тусклая, и экран весь в полосах.
The picture is dim and there are stripes all over the screen. Mom's face became visibly distraught.
Без ножа меня режешь. Дострелялся в уток своих.
Oh, you're killing me here. So, have you had enough of shooting those stupid ducks now?
Говорила же, посадите мне кинескоп своей приставкой.
Told you the kinescope will go dim because of your console.
Где мы теперь мастера найдем в дыре этой, а?
Where will we find a TV technician in this hole, huh?
Может быть, просто настройки сбились?
Maybe it's just the settings.
Сходи, посмотри, пожалуйста.
Please, go see for yourself.
Нормально же работал с утра.
Strange, it worked fine in the morning.
Из-за снегопада, наверное, неполадки.
Maybe the snowfall caused it. Mom rubbed her hands clean on her apron and went to Alia's room. Where's the note? Ah. I opened the front gate and went into the field. Carefully, so Mom wouldn't see me from the window. When I crossed half of the distance toward the forest, the snow piles became as high as my knees. I remembered my nightly fears. I saw those silhouettes around here. They were jumping around, holding hands. That hypnotizing music started playing in my head all on its own. In the light of day, those distant figures felt like a simple dream. The sun turned my nightmares into ash, but the aftertaste was still there, distant ringing in my ears, distorted shadows crawling on the snow alongside me, and a barely audible whisper in my head, blurry and almost kind. Everything was silent. So silent, I felt like the world was totally empty. No ground, no sky, no parents, no Alia. The time reached its limit, a one-way trip that ended at the forest's pinky stockade. Sometimes silence was much scarier than any scream. Our parents would scream at each other while arguing, and both me and Alia turned to stone listening to them. I need a drink. Let's take a sip quick. Yeah. But then always came the ringing silence. Our apartment became numb a couple of days before we departed. It was hard to remember the last time Mom and Dad joked around, laughing, or spent time together, almost like all of it was in a previous life. When they kissed with Alia present, she always frowned and snorted in a funny way. But one day it all changed. Something important had left our home, and something scary filled the remaining void. It was as if a fire broke out and our parents were hurriedly packing our belongings, trying to save themselves and us. From who, though? From the people with the dead cold eyes who sometimes visited us in our previous home? The eyes that only saw balls of worms on the black ground in everything? And somewhere far away, a siren was going off, trying to warn us of the coming menace. I shuddered, chasing away my delusions, and looked around. There were only me, this white field, and the wind that was whipping up icy dust and belts of powdered snow. I squinted from the sun and turned my eyes to the sunless forest. It looked especially dark in contrast with the blinding whiteness. Knobby tree roots slithered under the snow like fat snakes. Rotten leaves and coniferous needles froze into the ice. Dry, prickly branches intertwined, bringing up uncomfortable thoughts about fences. Were they protecting the forest? Or were they keeping something from breaking out? Some object was hanging from one of the pointy branches. I tried to get closer, drowning in the snow. And when I almost got to the edge of the forest, I saw a knitted mitten. It looked like a wounded bird among the hungering semi-dark. Should I take it to the police? Their senior officer looked gloomy, but he still reminded me of Captain Casanova from my favorite TV show called The Streets of Broken Lights. Streets of Broken Lights, a Russian mystery TV series telling the story of the daily life of Russian police officers. It's the longest running series in the history of Russian TV at the moment. He was also always anxious, with a tired look in his eyes, but still brave and strong. Will this mitten help them find the lost boy? Vova! I heard the distant shout. I looked like it came from the river. Vova! As if the trees were calling out to someone. Vova resounded closer to me. Someone was standing there behind the trees, hiding. Vova. I knew someone was looking for the lost boy, but still. Something was unsettling about that figure. Its stillness, how it was bent unnaturally toward the ground. Its blackness. There's no one there, just branches and roots. It's all just my imagination. I freaking love Boba. Miss Beth. A nearby bird flapped its wings loudly. A shadow split from the tree and disappeared from my sight. I looked away for just a moment, but when I turned my gaze back to the same place, it was gone. So it was my imagination, after all. Silence reigned for a painfully long time. My muscles were tightly sprung, my heart was beating somewhere in my throat. Any noise, any little movement, any small whisper from the thicket, and I'd sprint. But nothing of the sort happened. I looked at the mitten once more. Should we run away or take the mitten? Take? Okay. I decided to take the lonely mitten from the branch. Vova. A shout rumbled across the field and dissolved into the distance. No echo, no hope for a reply. I don't have good advice. I stepped toward the bristly trees and tried to claim my find. It didn't budge. I pulled harder, the branch cracked, and the mitten tore up, landing in my hand with a squishy sound. All too heavy, wet. I squeezed it without thinking. Something dark spilled from it, forming a tiny string between the mitten and the snow. Steam rose from the snow pile. I froze in place, studying my palms in disgust. Red. The sound of cracking branches invaded the silence. I didn't have to think twice before running away. Someone was chasing me from the darkness, breaking pine branches, closing the distance with giant leaps. Snow was slowing me down. Crazy thoughts flew through my mind. I'll get caught. They'll get me. I'll get dragged into the thicket. I'll be gone forever. But there was one more voice, probably one of reason. It gave me strength, spurred me on. You can do it. Don't stop. I heard an animal roar behind me. It was so loud my ears went numb. It felt like the sound had come from a pack of hungry beasts rather than a single one. Their nostrils sucked in freezing air. They sensed my fear. 2 giant wings flapped above me, or above my head. An enormous shadow flew over the clearing, a hoot, a wheeze. The roars were coming from all directions now. From the dried up raspberry bush, from twisted pines, from under the windfall. Hurry, run, don't look back. It felt like I was inside a nightmare. The snowy clearing became vicious like quicksand. I was stuck in place. I pulled my leg from the mushy trap just to be caught in a new one, even deeper than before. I continued to drown, sinking deeper and deeper with every desperate push. Was snow ever this sticky? I screamed in horror after realizing this wasn't snow. Someone or something in the snow pile was clutching at my pants. I gathered all my strength and rushed forward. The pressure on my leg was gone. My boots slipped out of the hole, and my soles were on a hard surface again. I reached a clear path with one jump, and from there ran to my house. Its gloomy facade didn't look threatening now. The house was my line of defense from the shadows that flapped their wings and the creatures that were hidden under the snow. I tripped over the doorstep and smashed into the door. In all my hurry, I still managed to notice the claw marks, as if a dog was striking the wood with its paws, demanding to be let in so it could escape the cold. I hadn't noticed these marks when I was leaving. The heartbeat on my ears was much louder than my surroundings. I couldn't hear whether someone was following me or not. What if they were already in our front yard and Mom had locked the door? Drowning in fear, I pulled on the doorknob and it obediently gave way. I rolled onto the hallway and shut the door behind me. Porch planks creaked as my pursuers ascended the stairs. My fingers slipped off the lock, and I couldn't click it into place. I gritted my teeth and pulled hard on the iron knob, whipping it between the boards. I stared blankly at the door. Someone was standing on the other side of the pitiful, flimsy barrier that was probably less useful than blankets. Wheezing breath reached into the house and crashed at me in waves. It smelled of pine and sweat. Mom peeked out of the kitchen and chastised me with the same frigid voice she always used when talking to Dad. What exactly didn't you understand when I told you to never slam the door?
Я случайно.
I didn't mean to. I snuck a glance at the door. The smell was gone, and the breath was too. Whew. If there was someone in the first place, of course. Here, mere 5 meters away from Mom, my fear was slowly weakening, melting like snow in spring, and with it, the last bit of strength that had left my body too. My legs gave way. I propped myself against the wall so I wouldn't fall over. Mom's expression had changed immediately. The cold mask of strictness and detachment was gone. Mom looked the same as before all those quarrels. She finally saw my condition, my wet pants plastered with snow.
Ты где был? Я тебе что говорила, а? Чтобы ты дома сидел.
Where have you been? What did I tell you, huh? I told you to stay home.
Я и для тебя пустое место.
Am I nothing to you? I got afraid she would cry. I reached out to her, like when I was very little, and wanted her to cuddle me. But Mom regained her composure fast and put on her usual face. Her eyes shining like steel, her voice rang out.
У отца сигареты пропали.
Your dad can't find his cigarettes.
Признавайся, ты их стащил? Курить бегаешь?
Be honest, did you snatch them? Were you smoking in secret?
Там за мной кто-то гнался. Я думал, меня...
There was someone chasing me. I thought... I stuttered as soon as I started explaining myself. Tears welled up in my eyes. Mom leaned toward me and sniffed my clothes like a beast searching for the smell of tobacco. Then she squinted her eyes in suspicion and looked into the front yard. Her expression changed in an instant and she covered her mouth with her hand.
Гляди, вон же они. Прямо у забора.
Look over there, at the fence. My heart started thumping as if I became prey once again and my pursuers were following me in the field. I could swear that I have heard something scratch at the door, just like in my nightmare. Mom beckoned me with her finger, and I gathered all my remaining bravery to look into the kitchen window, facing my fear. I could barely discern some hairy silhouettes swimming in the snow through the icy winter pattern on the glass. Dogs. Just a small pack of strays with no name and owner, barely reminding of the hungry monsters that live on the edge of the forest.
Божечки, ты их испугался? Да они сами тебя перепугаются, Антон.
Oh boy, were you scared of them? I think they'd rather be scared of you, Anton.
Они гнались за мной, словно за зайцем.
They were chasing me like a bunny.
А вдруг они бешеные?
And what if they're rapid? The smile had slowly disappeared from Mom's face. Now she looked at the dogs as if it was her first time seeing them.
Что если они нападут на Олю?
What if they attack Olya?
Мам,
Mom,
Вот бы твой отец их всех перестрелял.
I wish your dad could just shoot them all.
мама, они живые.
Mom, look, they're alive.
А что?
Huh? What?
Ты уж определись, они тебе друзья или враги?
Are they your friend or foe after all? Make up your mind.
Не маленький ведь уже.
You're not a little kid anymore. You're not a little kid anymore. Well, some detective I am. In reality, I wasn't risking my life among monsters, but rather my pants among a pack of stupid strays. And what for? What use do I have for this? Mitten. Of course! A dark, sticky mitten that belonged to the lost boy made a squishy sound in my hand. Seems like I was clutching it the whole time. That's my trump card as a detective. I hurried to present this clue to my mom.
Мам, смотри, это Вовина варежка.
You're an adult, time to do murder. Mom, look, this is Vova's mitten.
Ну того, про которого утром милиция спрашивала.
That boy the police were asking about in the morning.
Она вся в крови, на дереве висела. Вон там, могу показать.
It's drenched in blood. I found it hanging on a tree. I can show where.
Давай в милицию скорее позвоним, как нас участковый просил.
Let's call the police right away, like the officer had told us to.
Мам, гляди.
Mom, look.
Фу.
Ew. The shadow of doubt slowly crept into Mom's contorted face, as if she was trying to remember something distant, like someone tries to remember their dream, but the images slip away.
А ну-ка прекрати сейчас же.
Stop it this moment.
Оля тебя услышит, с ума сойдет.
Olya will go insane if she hears you.
Она и так не спит. На все подряд жалуется.
She already has trouble sleeping and whines all the time.
Еще и ты со своими шуточками.
And you joke around like this? At that moment, I realized the mitten was actually wet from snow. There was no blood whatsoever. I wanted to sink through the floor from embarrassment.
Иди сюда, паникер.
Come here, my boy who cried wolf.
Да не стой столбом. Вот, таблетку на. Быстро пей.
Oh, don't just stand there. Come take your pills. A golden-colored pill, reminiscent of a dead wisp, fell into my palm.
Я уже пил сегодня, за завтраком.
I already took one during breakfast.
Попререкайся мне еще.
Don't talk over me.
Сказала дома сидеть, нет же.
I told you to stay home and you...
Был бы отец, выпорол.
Dad would have given you a good whipping for that.
Сейчас же выпей, а то ночью не уснешь. Тебе ведь в школу завтра.
Come on, take it, or you won't be able to sleep at night, and you have school tomorrow. So I had to swallow the bitter medicine, drinking it down with a similarly awful water that gave off a taste of chlorine. Maybe it wasn't Vova's mitten. Maybe it wasn't a mitten at all. Just like the forest monsters. And Olya's owl. Am I going mad? What's happening to me? Either the pill had an immediate effect, or my overexerted brain didn't let fear inside anymore. Serenity washed over me, bringing yawning indifference along with it.
Антон, выпил? Можешь, если захочешь.
Anton, you done? See, you can't do it when you try.
Раздевайся. Уснул, что ли?
Take off your coat. Are you asleep?
Нет, мам, просто задумался.
No, Mom. I was just thinking.
Интересно, о чем же?
What about, I wonder?
Так, глупости всякие.
It's just something silly. Mom scrutinized me with suspicious eyes, as if she wasn't sure she was looking at her own son and not some doppelganger that came from the forest.
Точно все нормально?
Is everything all right?
У тебя такое лицо было, когда милиционер про окно спросил.
I had the exact same expression when the policeman asked you about the window.
Все нормально, мам.
I'm all right, Mom. She heaved a deep sigh.
Хорошо.
Fine. It seemed like the house had changed. The sofa's fabric had become discolored. Fingerprints appeared on the bathroom tiles. The light bulbs also felt different, dimmer and yellower. Mom seems kind of shitty. Maybe. Even the saliva inside my mouth had a different taste. A melody from Aladdin could be heard from the upper floor. Alia was done rewatching her favorite Little Mermaid episodes and switched to the other tapes. I slowly changed into my home clothes, stopped before the sink, and studied my reflection in the mirror, like I was trying to solve one of those spot the difference puzzles. Then I went upstairs. Jafar's and Iago's voice died down. I walked past Alia's bedroom and slipped into my own. One of the drawers was empty. I hid the policeman's phone number along with the mitten there. This simple action drained the last bit of strength from me. I sat on the bed, and only then I noticed there was someone behind the curtains. My tired hand dropped to the sheets. Whether it was due to medication I took or the stress I underwent, the room began to contort as if the wind was blowing the walls out like a pair of sails. The corners of the room bent and undulated. The only stable thing in the whole room was the figure between the windowsill and the curtains. A flimsy piece of cloth was stuck to my hidden visitor. It reminded me of burial sheets.
Оля?
Alia. Who else would be standing there? I stood up and licked my dry lips.
Оля, очень смешно.
Yeah, Alia, it's so funny. The silhouette was unmoving. It was enveloped softly by the curtains, as if there was a thick layer of darkness there, not a human being. I reached toward the curtains. But beat my heart, controlled by medication. The wind sang in the field with a chorus of voices. For a second, I wanted to return to the bed, just lie down and watch the person behind the curtain, knowing fully well they were looking back at me. They're looking without blinking, waiting for me to fall asleep. Plastic rings rustled against the holder when I pulled open the curtains.
Попался!
Gotcha!
Да я сразу понял, что это ты.
I knew it was you from the beginning. A blinding bright halo lit up above Alia's head with the setting sun as the background. My sister was shining. When she was just a baby, Dad always used to say she was shining with happiness. I always retorted, "But Dad, she's not some flashlight." But I brought her to the window one day and sunlight poured on her smiling face. I felt like I was holding a light, woven child.
А я все видела.
I saw everything.
Да ну,
Oh, really?
Что ты спрятал?
What did you hide? She was just like my mom when she was little, before She put on her sad mask of tiredness and switched to her commanding tone of voice.
Ничего, просто...
It's nothing, just... Alia ran up to the table, her eyes round, and asked,
Ты что-то украл и теперь прячешь?
You stole something and hid it there.
Ты вор?
Are you a thief?
Что? Глупая.
What? Don't be stupid.
Ничего я не крал.
I didn't steal anything. A clear image came to mind, that mitten hanging from a tree branch. What if I did steal it after all? From the forest, from the tilted figures standing behind black trees. Alia could be selfish and stubborn when she wanted.
Покажи тогда.
Then show me.
Поклянись, что никому не скажешь. Тогда покажу.
Swear that you won't tell anyone, then I'll show you. Alia wore a plotting smile.
Клянусь маминым сердцем.
I swear on Mom's heart. An oath she heard in one of the movies about the pioneers we've watched. Pioneer movement, an umbrella term for communist children organizations existing around the world, somewhat reminiscent of the Scout movement.
Не говори так.
Don't say things like that. I need another drink. I forgot how much reading this had. Alia nodded and made a gesture with her hand, locking her mouth with an imaginary key. She was filled with curiosity that was splashing in her giant eyes. I opened the drawer and Alia leaned in, holding her breath. It looked like there was not just a simple mitten, but some sort of exotic critter.
Это чья-то варежка?
Is this someone's mitten? She said that as if she couldn't understand what she saw.
Один мальчик потерял. И сам потерялся.
A certain boy lost it and got lost himself.
Теперь понимаешь, как опасно гулять в лесу, особенно детям?
Now do you understand how dangerous it is for kids to wander into the forest, right?
Ему, наверное, там очень холодно.
He must be really cold out there.
Его найдут?
Will they find him?
Обязательно.
They will.
Участковый по домам ходит, всем фотографии его показывает.
The police are going house to house, showing his photo to everybody. Alia traversed the room with care and pressed her tiny palms against the window.
А почему он по домам ходит, а не по лесу?
And why are they going to the houses and not the forest?
Боится?
Are they scared? The question caught me off guard.
Милиционеры ничего не боятся.
The police aren't scared of anything.
И лес они прочесали.
They've already scouted the forest. Yeah, right, flashed in my clouded mind. Did they really check every nook and cranny where darkness, cold, and whispers of icy branches dwell? If that's the case, how did they miss the mitten? Or did it appear later, for me? I changed the topic, as if trying to get Alia as far away as possible from the forest thicket.
Если я сам найду пропавшего мальчика, нам, может, награду дадут.
We may get a reward if I go and find this boy myself.
Кучу всякого, как в поле чудес.
A lot of stuff, like in the Wheel of Fortune.
Клёво же.
Sounds cool, right? Field of Wonders, a Soviet and Russian TV game show still running to this day. Coming out every Friday, can be described as a partially adapted version of Wheel of Fortune. Ooh. Alia wasn't listening to me. She was piercing the forest with incredibly adult eyes, uncharacteristic of her.
А что, если эта сова его утащила?
What if the owl got to him?
Ерунда.
Nonsense.
Не может сова поднять человека.
The owl won't be able to lift a human.
Ну вот что...
But you know what? I was picking my words with utmost care. I forced them out of my overexerted brain.
Ты в лес не суйся. Мне кажется, он какой-то...
Stay away from the forest. I think it's...
Как бы сказать, проклятый, что ли?
How should I put it? It's cursed or something.
Как в сказке?
Just like in a fairy tale.
Нет, Скорее, как на той страшной кассете, что родители прячут.
No, more like in that spooky tape our parents hide from us. Alia shivered and stole a glance at the window.
Я видела, как ты убегал.
I saw you running away.
За тобой кто-то гнался?
Someone was chasing you?
Нет, просто, чтобы мама не волновалась, спешил домой.
No, it's just I was hurrying back home so Mom won't be worried. As I looked at my sister, my heart was tearing apart. She was so fragile. It was so easy to stifle her light. A gust of wind and her small fire would be gone.
Хорошо тебе.
You're lucky.
Меня вот мама не пускает даже на крыльцо.
Mom won't even let me go outside.
Как принцесса в башне сижу. Никуда не могу выйти.
I'm like a princess in a tower. I can't go anywhere.
Так и умру тут от скуки.
I'll die from boredom here.
Не придумывай.
You're wrong.
От скуки еще никто не умирал.
No one has ever died of boredom.
У тебя же есть я и мультики, а мама с папой скоро помирятся.
And you have me and your cartoons, and Mom and Dad will be good to each other soon.
Знаешь, что бы я загадала на следующий день рождения?
You know what I would wish for on my next birthday?
Чтобы родители тоже в детей превратились. И мы бы все вместе играли, как раньше.
I'd wish for Mom and Dad to turn into children so we could go and play together like we used to.
Ага, а если бы они стали размером с жука, то мы бы их в спичечный коробок посадили.
Yeah, and if you'd make them as small as bugs, we could place them into a little box. Alia giggled and tugged at my sleeve.
Тоша, пойдем Аладдина смотреть.
Tosha, let's go watch Aladdin. Fatigue went over my desire to be with my little sister. I was washed over by some sort of heinous empathy.
Вымотался я. Что-то не хочется.
I'm too tired. I don't want to.
Ну пойдем.
Come on.
Мне скучно одной, а мама занята все время.
It's so boring alone, and Mom is always busy.
Можно выбрать другой мультик, который ты еще не видел.
We can pick a cartoon you haven't seen before.
Да я все наши кассеты наизусть знаю.
I know all of your tapes by heart at this point.
А вот и не все. Ты Питера Пэна не видел.
Not all of them. You haven't watched Peter Pan.
Помнишь, ты уснул на середине?
Remember how you fell asleep in the middle of it?
А там потом такое. Ну
And-
пойдем.
And so much happens after that. Let's go. Let's go.
Давай попозже.
Maybe a bit later.
Рассказать тебе, чем все закончилось?
Should I tell you how it ends?
Утром расскажешь.
Let's leave that for tomorrow.
Утром не захочу.
I won't tell you tomorrow.
Придумала. А давай в прятки.
I know. Let's play hide and seek.
Нет, Оль.
No, Alia.
Тогда нарисуй мне динозавра.
Then draw me a dino.
Оля, блин.
Alia, please.
Нарисуй, нарисуй.
Draw it. Draw it.
Да оставь ты меня в покое!
Leave me alone already. I blurted out without thinking, and then I was immediately taken aback. I never screamed at my little sister like that. Alia stared at me in shock. Her lips started trembling, a precursor to tears. My chest was seething with disgust and embarrassment. What's happening to me? I hurried to prevent Alia from crying.
Ладно, уболтала.
All
Давай
right.
смотреть мультики.
All right, you win. Let's go watch cartoons for a bit.
Уже не хочу.
I don't wanna. I came up to her, put my hand on her soft head.
Пойдем.
Let's go.
Питера Пэна посмотрим.
Let's go watch Peter Pan.
Ага, ты опять уснешь.
Boo! You'll fall asleep again. I smiled and lifted her chin. Her eyes were wet and felt bottomless.
Не усну, обещаю.
I promise I won't.
А потом я тебе целого трицератопса нарисую.
And I'll draw you a full triceratops later.
Ура!
Hooray! Triceratops.
Ну, почти.
Well, close enough. Alia rubbed her eyes with a sleeve of her pajamas, and a shining smile returned to her face.
Давай ты пока кассету перемотаешь, а я у мамы попрошу сгущенки с хлебом.
I'll go ask Mom for condensed milk and bread, and you rewind the tape.
Только утром свежий привезли, как ты любишь.
The bread is fresh, just how you like it.
Неси, только аккуратнее, а то разольешь.
Alright, just be careful not to spill the milk,
Опять ругаться будут.
or you'll be yelled at again.
Спорим, не разолью.
Wanna bet I won't spill it?
Кассета где-то в тумбочке. Поищи пока.
The tape is somewhere in the nightstand. Look for it. Alia disappeared into the doorway, and I dragged my feet into the neighboring room. The old photon TV was gathering dust in the corner. All that was left was clicking the button on the front panel. The tube warmed up and a familiar white noise started dancing on the black screen. I almost reached out to turn on the VCR when the noise calmed down and a blurry image appeared for a moment. It was a dark taiga forest, just like the one outside my window. The picture split the screen in half. Something creepy resembling human speech was coming out of the speaker. Just a few moments later, the scenery was again overshadowed by noise. Did it catch some rogue signal? Local TV station only really showed Soviet cartoons, and even that was pretty rare. And only just recently I used to always watch Robotech before school. It was so awesome. Maybe I should tinker with the antenna. What if I catch this channel again? On the other hand, Alia had asked me to find the tape. It wouldn't be nice to disappoint her. But in my sleepy state, I didn't have the strength to do all of it. I sifted through the shelves full of dolls and blue hippos from Kinder Surprises. I found the tape I needed thanks to its shabby spine. I got the black rectangle from its box. The tape inside it rustled while rewinding to the beginning. This rustle was lulling me to sleep. Drowsiness attacked me while I was squatting before the TV. Kinder Eggs Disney movies. Yeah. It takes place in the early 90s, so. Images whirled in my head. Me and Alia flying above the forest, tumbling in the soft clouds. My little sister is laughing, but her smile becomes more and more forced with every passing second. I noticed that the clouds underneath us part, bearing the bristly pine tops. Swampy darkness slurped among the trees. The wings are no longer able to hold us, and Alia.
Ты не смотришь без меня?
You haven't started without me, have you? My sister brought the tray with unevenly cut bread and a whole can of condensed milk. I rubbed my
Нет,
eyes.
садись.
No, come sit.
Мама с папой опять ругаются.
Mom and Dad are arguing again.
У них сейчас период такой.
They're going through rough times.
Глупый какой-то период.
Rough times are lame. On the screen, Wendy was hiding Peter Pan's shadow into the dresser. Alia was entertained by the cartoonish dog Nana.
Может, и нам родители собачку купят?
Maybe Mom and Dad will buy us a dog too.
Ага, как же.
Yeah, right.
В Небыляндии у меня будет своя собственная собака.
I'll have my
И попугайчик.
I'll have my own dog in the Neverland, and a cat, and a parrot. Alia smeared a slice of bread with a thick layer of condensed milk and handed it to me.
А у тебя все молочные зубы выпали?
Have you lost all of your baby teeth?
Конечно.
Obviously. Alia frowned, deep in thought.
У Питера Пэна зубы молочные.
Peter Pan has baby teeth.
Вдруг со взрослыми зубами тебя не пустят в его страну?
What if they won't let you go to his land with adult teeth?
Мы что-нибудь обязательно придумаем.
We'll think of something.
Попросим папу исправить тебе возраст в паспорте.
We'll ask Dad to alter your age on the passport.
С чего это папа будет документы подделывать?
And why would Dad forge documents? Alia took a bite from the sandwich and started talking with her mouth full.
Будет. Мама говорила, что он так делал. А я подслушала.
He will. I told Mom He did that before.
Смотри, уши вырастут, как у Дамбо.
You'll grow ears as big as Dumbo's. Alia got worried and touched her ears and smiled to myself. My little sister was silent now. She just devoured bread, watching the adventures of Peter Pan, Tinkerbell, and James Hook. As if she got sucked into the fairy tale Neverland. To be honest, I also imagined myself there, in the land where one never ages, where no one argues over little things, where no one listens to fights and the sound of broken plates at night. It felt like I was dreaming with my eyes still open. Then my sister's scream pulled me back to reality.
Тоша, скорей, штору задерни!
Tosha, shut the curtains fast.
Зачем?
Why?
Никто же на тебя не смотрит.
No one's watching you.
Уже темно, а когда темнеет, прилетает сова.
It's dark, and when it's dark, the owl comes.
Я боюсь.
I'm scared. I got out of bed, fighting my drowsiness, and closed the curtains. I did my best not to look outside toward the treetops, towards the taiga forest, which seemingly drew closer and closer. Of course, it was just a visual effect from shadows of branches scraping the snow.
Тоша, мама думает, что я напридумывала про сову.
Tosha, Mom thinks I made the owl up.
И папа считает, что раз я маленькая, это значит врушка.
Dad, too, thinks I'm a liar since I'm small.
А сова есть.
But the owl exists.
Вот честная-пречестная, есть она.
Honestly, it does.
Ты же мне веришь,
You do believe me, right?
что она там и каждую ночь прилетает
That it comes every night and I swiftly grabbed Alia's hand and looked her in the eyes. I was trying to transfer at least some of my courage and determination. But did I really have those qualities?
Я тебе верю, слышишь?
Yes, I believe you, all right?
Ты только родителям больше не рассказывай про сову.
Just don't nag our parents about it anymore.
У них и так хлопот по горло, они только рассердятся.
They're already dealing with a lot, so they'll just get mad at you.
Ты мне говори, если что случится.
Come and tell me if anything happens.
И в окно не смотри.
And don't look out the window.
Но она хочет, чтобы я смотрела.
But it wants me to look.
Перехочет.
Doesn't matter.
Притворись, что ее нет и не было никогда, что она выдумка, как родители говорят.
Act like it doesn't exist and never existed. Like it's made up, just like Mom and Dad say.
Ей ждать надоест, она улетит.
It'll get tired of waiting and fly away. We followed Peter Pan's adventures as if nothing had happened, as if the forest didn't kidnap kids, as if our parents weren't tearing each other apart bit by bit. Captain Hook was running away from a crocodile and Captain Pan was headed to London on a gilded sailboat. By some miracle, I lasted longer than my little sister. Alia's eyes had dropped. She started snorting lightly, resting her chin on the side of the bed. I stood up and left Alia's room. I was looking out the window, studying the field, when Mom peeked into my room.
Довольно баловства.
Enough playing around.
Завтра первый день в школе.
It's your first day at school tomorrow.
Ложись, тебе надо выспаться.
Go to bed. You should sleep properly.
Не хочешь же ты, чтобы тебя все дразнили Соней?
You don't want to be teased for being sleepy, right? Adults think everything is so simple. As if sound sleep would ensure my classmates would like me. I covered myself with a blanket up to my neck and listened to the house humming to something invisible rustling in the corners. My inner voice had a question for me. Do I want to hear that mysterious flute again? Yes or no? Maybe it's just a part of growing up and I can't fully understand my own desires. The forest wailed behind the barrier that was my walls. Some ethereal entity wandered the fields. Branches shook as if calling for me. Teased for being sleepy, right? The wind howled on and on in the night. My thoughts were like annoying flies that entered my head before becoming weak and tangled. I didn't notice how I fell into slumber. It has come after all. The day I feared the most, the first day of a new school term. Episode 2. Woo! Alright. We're gonna save. Yes. Okay. Main menu.